I think we're living in this perfect storm of at least 4 cross currents, and here's kind of a visual representation. First, we're living in a post-Christian culture. We did a lot of work on this over the summer in the Creative Minorities series, but we all know this, in particular in a city like Portland, which we love, the gravitational pull to the city is just so dang strong. The pull to just, man, why go to church? Let's just go out for beers and have fun and hang out. The pull to slide on what Jesus and the writers of the New Testament have to say about sexuality and marriage. The pull to just give in to rampant consumerism and buy jacket number 13 that you don't need and not even ask where it was made or whatever. That pull is just so easy to get sucked in. Then on top of that, we're living in modern society, and there's pros and cons to modern society. I love that I did not ride a horse to church. I'm a fan. Some of you are more equestrian. Not me. I like to smell nice, or at least not bad, okay? So not my style. I'm really grateful that in a minute when I read from the NIV, I'm not going to get burned at the stake by the king. That's great. I'm cool with that. But there's a lot about modern society, and there's a lot of really smart people out there with letters after their name who are doing a great job of writing about just how toxic modern society has become. The digital age, the nonstop, constant digital distraction. Your phone has become like an appendage, like a part of your humanity. The hyper-individualism, and so we ache for community, and loneliness is like this plague on our society. Yet at the same time, we're hyper-connected, but we don't really have community, but we don't really know how to stay in a relationship long term and do community, and there's just the busyness. It used to be I'm old enough now that I remember back in the 90s when there were busy people. It's ooh, that person's an executive, he's busy, or she's busy, or that's a family with 4 teenagers, they're busy. Now everybody's busy. I haven't been bored since 1994. You remember? So most of you are too young to remember this thing called Boredom. It was pre-Wi-Fi, all right? So it was a thing. It was a thing back in the day. It was like a plague on humanity, all right? Actually, it was great. So there's a lot of great stuff about modern society, but man, just living and being a healthy, thriving human being, much less an apprentice of Jesus, in this kind of a cultural milieu is really a challenge. Then we're really the first adult generation that is the byproduct of divorce. So I think something like 60+% of our church grew up in a broken home. Some of you are doing just fine for the most part, but I know as a pastor here, in conversation after conversation, a lot of you are just reeling with emotional pain from your family of origin, with a father wound or a mother wound, the relational dysfunction of growing up in that kind of a home setting. One of the things we're seeing, in particular with younger millennials, it's not a slam on anybody, but is a breakdown of basic relational skills, a breakdown of an ability to do relational conflict in a healthy way. Our parents' generation, as a general rule, when a relationship got tough, would just get a divorce and move on. Our generation has turned that into an art form. And so very few of us have long-term healthy relationships, know how to deal with conflict, know how to be in community over the long haul. Then on the last kind of quadrant there, we're really the first adult generation that is the byproduct of the megachurch. So I know not all of you grew up in church, and that's great. A lot of you did, though. And in the 70s and 80s, we saw the rise of a brand new kind of, not new, but new in its popularity, model of church called the megachurch that really did a lot to reshape the church in America. Even if you did not grow up in a church that was 2,000 people or more, if your church was more like Bridgetown size or a couple of hundred people, the odds are that you grew up in a church that was at least shaped by that kind of a mentality. And this is a gross oversimplification. I know that some of you grew up in kind of a Sunday-centric church that was healthy and thriving, but a lot of that model of church where it was kind of come to church on Sunday, be a good person during the week, give money to the church, and just kind of have a few friends here when it's convenient. As a general rule, once again, this is a gross oversimplification, but as a general rule, that model of church did not do a great job raising up apprentices to Jesus, but rather did a much better job raising up what the sociologist Christian Smith calls moralistic therapeutic deists. So he's a famous sociologist from Notre Dame, did a landmark study a decade ago on millennial Christianity, basically said it isn't a thing, like what most millennials who check the box Christian on whatever survey in America are not actually Christian, but are what he called moralistic therapeutic deists. Moralistic, be a good person. Therapeutic, God, Jesus, the Bible church is about self-help. It's about kind of maximize your life, get ahead. And deist, yes, there's a God. He's not really all that involved in my life unless if I need something. Other than that, I kind of just live how I live, like the people around me. That's actually where most millennial faith is across our nation, all right? Hopefully not for you and for me. So all that to say, here we are right in the middle of that. Bridgetown Church, welcome. We're so happy you're here. It's great to see you. With your father wound and your emotional pain and your iPhone addiction and your lack of the spiritual disciplines in your life and your pull to have way too many beers instead of go to church. Like, great to see you. Welcome. We're so happy. Now, don't misread me. This is not a slam on anybody. It's not a slam on the church in America. There is no such thing. It's not a slam on you. It's not a slam on me. This is just to call out the elephant in the room. This is our cultural moment. It's like that David Foster Wallace line at the beginning of his commencement address at Kenyon College. I don't know if you've read that. It's short, easy read. It's really worth your time. But he opens with this story about two fish, and there's an older fish and a younger fish who are swimming in the water one day, and the older fish says to the younger fish, "Morning, how's the water?" And the younger fish says, "What the heck is water?" This is the water that we're swimming in. This is our cultural moment. And the question is, how do we as a church, how do you and I, as a follower of Jesus, how do we not only survive but thrive in this kind of a cultural milieu, in the here and now?